I'm Frank Garza, and welcome to Here and Abroad, a podcast that follows the U.S. men's national team and their player pool across Europe, MLS, or wherever else they play their club football. On today's show, we're looking ahead to the September friendlies and exploring what Poch might have in mind for the lineup. We'll also break down the latest transfer news involving U.S. internationals and highlight the player performances we'll be watching closely in the coming weeks. Joining me again is Kyle Bond from the Sporting News. So, Kyle, let's start with Poch's strategy for the September friendlies. This is the first episode you and I have done together, I believe, since the Gold Cup. So, I haven't had the chance to hear your thoughts on it. It's something that I think I've talked about every episode since the Gold Cup with other folks. It's just what he does with this team in September is so intriguing to me. Have to get your thoughts. It seems like there's two prevailing kind of thoughts here. One is that he's going to say, hey, this Gold Cup squad, thank you for your service. You did great effort, but the quality isn't good enough. But it's time to reintegrate the stars, the Pulisic's, the Weahs, the McKennies, and all of them. Some of you guys are going to stick around on the bench, of course, but we need to bring in the star players or whoever one thinks of as the first team. There's another prevailing thought that kind of says he seems to like that team with the Gold Cup a lot, and maybe he'll keep them in place and make some of these regulars earn their place back into the team. And that's what kind of intrigues me. Where do you stand on all of it? How do you think Poch is going to handle the roster and that starting lineup come September?
Well, here's my thought, and the reason I tend towards the first theory that you've laid out. The short answer is we don't know, but and we're going to find out. We're going to learn a lot about Poch's strategy in this window. I tend towards the first one. It'll probably be a mix of both, but I tend towards the first one only because I think it would be harsh for Poch to make those guys earn their way back in if they have to wait for the club opportunity to do that. I think if you're going to give them the chance, if you're going to ask them to earn their way back in, you have to give them a chance to earn their way. And a lot of this is it's not just about the matches, right? It's about training. It's about the attitude in the dressing room, that kind of a thing. And Poch is very big on, I need to see it to believe it. So I think he calls in a lot of these guys and says, perform in front of me. Do it in the national team setting in front of me. Just because you've been called in now doesn't mean you get called in later. I need to see it. But I think he's a very hands-on guy. He wants to see the players perform in front of him rather than abroad with their clubs. He wants to see it in his environment. So to me, I sort of tend towards the idea that he calls these guys in, not telling his Gold Cup squad, thanks, see you later. But he says, okay, I've given you your opportunity. Now I'm giving these guys their opportunity. And as we get closer, I put all the players together from all the opportunities who have taken their opportunity.
Yeah. It's interesting what you say about the training there, because I believe the first friendly is on a Saturday. And the international window, starts on that Monday. And so sometimes you see them play on a Thursday and they really have no time whatsoever. Like, guys might be arriving on Monday or Tuesday and they have to turn around and play a game Thursday. So even though that's not a lot of opportunity for training ahead of a Saturday match, everyone should get 2-3 full days, something like that. So he'll have the opportunity to do exactly, what you say. I tend to lean more towards the second I guess theory that I threw out there, though. I don't think he's going to put the same 11 out to start the first friendly that he did against Mexico in the final of the Gold Cup. It wouldn't shock me if he did. I mean, I'm not past being shocked at all by Pochettino anymore. So it wouldn't shock me if he did that to send a message. But I do think, man, he really formed a bond with these guys, at the Gold Cup. And I think he thinks they did a good job. He talks over and over again about earning your place. they did a better job than the I guess I keep calling them first choice team or this team of stars did at the Nations League. I mean, they outperformed them against the same competition. You don't think so? I mean, fourth out
Kind
of
of.
four, and they got second. And they. I mean, I guess to your point, they didn't have to maybe. They never beat a great team, I guess. Like, but I guess
No,
the Nations League team lost to Panama. You know what I mean?
they
But
did.
so I don't know. I think that I do think he's gonna like, and he has a lot of outs, right? He can say he doesn't have to come out and be so harsh and tell the media like, "Oh, I'm sending a message and I'm gonna make the Pulisic, McKinney, all those guys earn it." He can be like, there's 2 games, we're gonna spread it out. There's only 2 days between the 2 matches, so I don't want to like, I want to keep in mind like people's fitness and whatnot. But I just think he's gonna want to reward a lot of those players for the effort and I don't know, I guess the achievement of making a final, at the Gold Cup. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if he rolls out that same starting 11 minus 3 players, maybe something like that. I mean, would you be shocked if he did that?
Um, I only struggle to go that far because I wonder how many, like, how, if you're putting the same 11 or close to the same 11 out, what's your squad look like? Like, I don't understand how you can have a squad where you can have all these like regulars in one lineup and all these Gold Cup stars in the other. Um, that would be a weird squad to me. So I'm just not sure what that would look like. I think I understand the general concept of what you're saying, like splitting it up a little bit, but I don't think you can really toe the line with the squad in that way. Like I think in order to build a squad that's sensible, you kind of have to lean in one way or the other and commit to both games rather than one.
Well, I think so. I think the starting line, the starting 11, I think all of those guys will be in camp. The starting 11 from the Gold Cup, all of those.
Okay.
I'm not saying the entire roster,
Right.
the Sullivans, the guys that hardly played, but there was a core that 11 players that started every knockout round game, plus maybe a Jack McGlynn or a few others that did get playing time. So I think those 11, 12 players will be there. Then there's like everyone talks about the 10 players or so that were missing from the camp. That gets you up to only, 22, 23 players. Still gives you some room for a few more. So I think there's room for the core, for both of these core groups I'm talking about to be there. But then there's all this other, the Tanner Tessmans, Aiden Morris, Gianluca Buzio, Cameron Carter Vickers, like all these other guys that seem to be in the team that I don't know how he's going to handle those guys. But anyway, it's going to be fascinating. I tell you what, when that starting lineup card comes out, I don't know if there'll be a starting lineup card I've like been more like had more anticipation to see in a long time, and maybe going all the way back to the first match of the World Cup, because there was still, when they played Wales, there were still a few positions you maybe didn't know, where Berhalter was going to go. But this is like I'm going to be on pins and needles, waiting for this lineup card to come out.
Yeah. We're gonna learn a lot, and I'm excited for it, but I'm also skeptical. Like I still I still worry that the trajectory is weird, and I'm not in total agreement with it. I'm I want to see, this will tell me so much because I'm still not in total agreement with how the summer was utilized and how the summer was approached, and we will see where that summer falls into the bigger picture when we see how this squad and this lineup is thought of.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to have a good idea where he's going with the squad and the roster. And also, we're going to have a good idea of what this team can potentially do, because you come out of September, you only have October and November, and then there's like a break all the way until March. What is that, like 4 months? I mean, I don't know how much you're going to change the team starting, in March. So if we get to the end of November, after those November friendlies, and this team hasn't come together, developed like a winning philosophy, winning momentum, I'm going to start to lose a lot of hope, I think, in what they can do at the World Cup. Because I just don't think it's feasible to think that they're going to play bad and then all of a sudden come the World Cup, they're going to turn it on.
No, and I think, and I do think maybe we didn't discuss this yet, but I think the Gold Cup proved to us that you can only get so far with effort and grit and heart and desire. You need talent. And if Poch is bailing on talent in order to get his, hungriest 11, if you will, I don't think that's a winning strategy. And I don't think you can perform that way. Yeah, you can beat the smaller teams, right? Because you're better than them. And when they matched up against a team like Mexico that was better than them, they lost.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, I've been saying this on social media a bunch, and I think it's worth saying here. I probably have said it a couple of times on the podcast. It is not Mauricio Pochettino's job to find the players who want to be in the national team. It is Mauricio Pochettino's job to make the best players want to be there. He needs to motivate. He cannot bail on these players who should be there because they don't have the heart or the desire. It is your job to instill that heart and desire in your best players. And if you can't do that, they need to find someone else who can. Obviously, it's too late for that, but the point being, his job is just as much a tactician, a football man, as it is this is what they mean by man management, right? When you're in a club, you can go out and buy the players who fit your style the best, personality-wise and tactically. You can't do that here. You need to find your best players and manage them. And I want to see him manage players who may need some management.
I like that. We need to put that on the wall. I want to see him manage some players who may need some management. I mean, that's classic right there. I think I have heard you say that before, and you do wonder if that's what he's doing. If that's his whole point. With all of this, like to try and create competition, to try and motivate those players who we think of as the regulars, to try and light a fire under them. You wonder if that's the whole deal with what he's
at
trying.
What cost, right? How much limited valuable game minutes are you willing to sacrifice in order to motivate guys? Because at some point you run out of minutes, and those minutes can be used to get those guys playing well together. And that's why I was frustrated with wasting the summer in terms of bringing your best players in. So how many, if that's the strategy, right? And we still don't even know if that's the strategy, but if that's the strategy, we will find out if it works, right? Like hand up, I will admit in the summer, if they perform well with their best players, that, hey, it was the right move. But how many minutes are you willing to sacrifice from a limited pool of minutes in order to further that goal?
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. And, I'm also open to the possibility that he just is coming here so fresh with a fresh set of eyes, like he doesn't know, he hasn't been told who all the great players are. He hasn't been told, this or that. Is it possible he just has such a fresh set of eyes that he sees something completely different?
Well, whatever
he
saw lost to Mexico. So I don't. They got out talented. So whatever if that's the approach, then I'm concerned, because if what he's seeing is the opposite of what everyone else is seeing, that guys like Weston McKennie and Tim Weah and forget Pulisic, like he was the one that opted out, but some of the other guys, like okay, maybe you couldn't select them. There were some restrictions. Point being, if he is choosing not to select some of these players because of whatever he's seeing, whatever he did select was second best by a wide margin to Mexico. And so I would then question his talent eye.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, we'll know soon enough. I mean, we're in
Yes.
late July. We're probably 5 weeks away or so from seeing a roster announcement. I would anticipate that coming the last week of August. So we'll see. One thing that we know is going to impact it is, how players are doing at their new clubs. There's been a lot of activity already in the summer transfer window involving U.S. internationals. I want to ask you about three guys that, their moves aren't official yet, but there seems to be a lot of momentum trending in a direction to make these moves happen. Gio Reyna to Parma, Tim Weah to Marseille, and Josh Sargent to Wolfsburg. I mean, none of those are official yet. Things can fall apart at the last minute, but they all three appear to be heading in a very positive direction. Which of those three moves excites you the most, or do you think will be most impactful, for the U.S. men's national team?
I want to say Gio Reyna because anything is better than 0 minutes. But I need to see it from him before I know any move is a positive because who knows if yet another manager is going to bury him on the bench, right? Like, I don't want him to go to MLS yet. I still think I still am kind of clinging to this idea of Gio Reyna rather than the reality of Gio Reyna. And I think that he can prove that somewhere in Europe. But until I see it from him, I can't say that. I would say from the other two, I worry about Tim Weah's move. And the reason I worry about Tim Weah's move is that he was actually playing very well at Juventus and began to establish himself as a pretty regular player. And while it may not be in a position that he plays for the national team or necessarily his best position, I think he was performing pretty well. And I never like to see guys who are playing well make a move. Um, so I understand though that he may want this move because Juventus is not in Europe next season, right? So they made this gives him a chance to
Well, I
play in
think they
Europe.
are. Didn't I
Are
think
they?
they ended up finished fourth, I think,
Okay.
in Serie A. So I do think they're in Champions League.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, so then yeah, the move.
But Marseille is too.
Right, right. I don't know. I worry about that one a little bit because of just the idea that he was playing well at Juventus and getting a lot of minutes. So now he's got a new place, a new squad to sort of prove himself in. He's familiar with playing in France, so that shouldn't be an issue. But we'll see. The Sargent move I like. He's about hit his ceiling in the championship, and I'm glad that he's going to sort of figure it out somewhere else. And playing in Germany gives attackers a big boost. Um, I've been talking about it a lot with discussing some players who have transferred from the Bundesliga to the Premier League. There's often when you're analyzing some of these guys statistically, talking largely about Hugo Ekitike here in a likely move to Liverpool. I'm sort of deviating from the topic a little bit, but I promise I'm going somewhere here. Ekitike, when you look at his numbers and trying to figure out why Liverpool are paying so much money for him, one thing you have to consider is that his 15 goals and I think it was 8 assists in the Bundesliga last year comes with a lot of air. There's often a lot of air in Bundesliga statistics from a goal scoring perspective because teams play high press, high risk styles, and there's a lot of counterattacking possibilities and a lot of press breaking opportunities. And I think that will fit Josh Sargent's game very well. When you're analyzing a transfer from the Bundesliga, you have to consider that there's a lot of air in their statistics. When you're looking at a player going to the Bundesliga, like Josh Sargent, that's a good thing for the player because you could theoretically, especially for an attacking player, you could see them get a lot more goal scoring opportunities. Um, I think we need to consider that if he plays well, and we need to analyze how well he's playing and if he's a viable option for the U.S. But I like the move overall. I think he's hit his ceiling in the championship, and I'd like to see him go to a place where he'll fit like that. And I think it works.
Yeah. I'm with you. I really like the Sargent Reyna moves. I mean Reyna because this rumor had come out last week that LAFC was the leading candidate for him, and that proved to be not true. But I was like you. I was like, okay, I'm not totally against it because Poch is pulling a lot of players from MLS, but I still was hanging on to. I would have liked to see Gio Reyna get a chance at another club in Europe that was still either in a top 5 league or maybe one of the top like Dutch clubs, something like that. And I think, I know Parma finished like pretty near the bottom of the table. I think they were around 16th or so, something like that. So I think it suits him. I mean, I think a team mid to lower table Serie A like suits what he's doing, but also gives him ample opportunity to like exceed expectations, and do well. He'll get to prove himself against some of the top teams in the world, playing Inter and Juve and AC Milan. So I like it. I hope it works out. Same with Sargent. I think it's a good move. It's a step up, but not too high of a step up to where I'd be worried. Weah, I think I'm okay with Marseille. I would just like to see him play winger, if he goes there. And I don't really know if he will. I haven't heard like what the competition is in their starting 11, what formations they play or whatnot. But I'm a little disappointed by it because I do see Weah, I do see like Juve as his like level, a team like that, and I've always wanted him to like make it at that team. And he did seem to do better in his second season than his first season and like be more dependent on. So I was hoping maybe to see another step up. But so I'm a little disappointed because I do think he has the talent to play at one of these like elite clubs in the world. And I guess you could argue Marseille is one of those too. It's just, I don't know, it's not to me at that level of Juve, but we'll see.
So he'll be playing he'll be competing directly. I'm looking at their squad now, with, say what you will about his personal life, but competing with Mason Greenwood, who on that right wing at Marseille actually had a really, really, really good season last year, and competed for the Ligue 1 Golden Boot. So he's going to have some real competition on that side of things. I don't know. Maybe they'll play him at fullback, and he would be there competing with a couple guys that I'm not familiar with. But yeah, that would be the name that you would look at on their squad and go, okay, he's directly competing with Mason Greenwood. Now, Greenwood can play striker. He can also play number 10. So maybe they'll make room. But that would be my first thought when looking at this squad.
Okay. Okay. In general, I'd have to say I'm pretty happy with the summer transfer window for U.S. international. So, I mean, everybody who's made a move, to me, it makes sense. I haven't seen a move yet where I'm like, ooh, that's too much, or this seems questionable. I mean, it just seems like, Ajiman to Derby County, George Campbell to West Brom, Cardoso to Atletico Madrid, Tillman to Leverkusen. I mean, they all seem to make sense to me.
Cardoso has really big, 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 big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
And I worry a little bit, not a ton, but I worry a little bit that it's just a bit, I don't want to say over his head because that's not what I mean, but they lost Rodrigo de Paul and they added Johnny Cardoso. And they are very dissimilar players from as far as midfielders go. And I worry that they might try to shoehorn Johnny Cardoso to fit the Rodrigo de Paul role, which would be astronomically ill-advised. The best thing that Rodrigo de Paul does is the thing that nobody realizes Rodrigo de Paul does, which is his high-risk, high-reward passing. He is a home run hitter as a passer, and it's his best quality. Obviously, he has his midfielder destroyer role that he gets a lot of credit for because of his relationship with Messi, but he is a world-class home run passer. Johnny Cardoso's worst trait is his passing. And I worry that they try to fit those two together. And unless they see something in scouting Cardoso that they think he can do the job, I'm not so sure that that is going to work. So we'll see. They also added Thiago Almada, so they may give Almada some of that role. But again, it's not really the same. Rodrigo De Paul is more of a two-way midfielder. Now you're bringing on two players to fill one role. I don't really get it. We'll see. But that one's one that I'm skeptical of and want to keep an eye on.
Yeah, you got to say Cardoso and Tillman, they've put the most pressure on themselves with their moves, right? It's a huge upside.
Ways,
yeah. Huge upside, but they could fall on their face, as well. And so, but I like both of them. They seem, you look at the career trajectory, they're good steps. It's like you got to like bet on yourself, but there is some risk there.
I just say in different ways because I think you look at what Tillman did. Both players we're talking about here are fulfilling big roles. Like Tillman is a Florian Wirtz replacement. There's no other way to spin that. And a huge shoes to fill. And I would back him to do a job there. I don't think he'll be Florian Wirtz. Nobody is. There's a reason Liverpool spent 125 million. But I think he can do a job. Cardoso just doesn't fit as a Rodrigo De Paul replacement, so we'll see how that works out. But Tillman has sort of peaked at his club. I wouldn't say Johnny Cardoso peaked at Real Betis. I think he was in a good spot. I think he fit. So Tillman needed out, right? He needed to take that next step. I'm not sure Johnny Cardoso needed to take this next step. I would never fault a player for moving to a club like Atletico Madrid. Gosh, I mean, what a great opportunity for him. But I don't know about the fit.
Okay. Well, aside from these transfers, the last thing I want to ask you about is who you're going to be keeping your eye on this next week or two, because we have a lot going on. We have the European preseason camps, friendlies are really starting to kick off. MLS is in full swing. Liga MX is back. When you look at this next 1 or 2 weeks, who are some U.S. players you're going to be watching closely?
Yeah, I think it's a tough call because there's not, like you said, there's a few things happening, but I would have said Patrick Agyemang had he not then gone and made a move to an English club that is in their preseason. So we can't list him on this list because I would have loved to see him settle back in at Charlotte and see how he cracks on in MLS. I would say probably a guy like Diego Luna. I would love to see how this summer affects him from a league form perspective. Will he come back and without all the eyeballs, without all the attention, back into his club environment and keep rolling? Will it sort of come down off the high? I'm interested to see how that goes.
Yeah, it seems to be pretty quiet so far. At least I haven't seen many goals, assists in the score line, of his games. So that's what I'm watching as well. I have my eye on Pulisic. They have a friendly against Arsenal on Wednesday, and then they play Liverpool on Saturday. So excited to see how Allegri is utilized.
I want to say.
Yeah, it's Singapore. It's definitely the first one I think is in Singapore, but yeah, it's all Australia, Asian tour, that area. But yeah, I want to see what how he looks with Allegri. I mean, how does Allegri use him? Is it a different position? Does he play around, putting him in different spots? Just how does all that look? And then, coming off all the controversy of taking his break, does he look fresh? He should look fresh and ready to go. It would be nice to see him get off to a good start. And then Dest and Pepe, at PSV as well. They have a friendly on Saturday against Athletic Club.
Is Pepe back? Is he in training and healthy? Or
Yeah,
is he still...
he's training. He's
Okay.
played. He's already played in a friendly, I believe. Yeah, I want to see what are they doing with his minutes? Like how many minutes is he able to play? Is he ramping up each friendly? That's the main thing I'm looking for from him. Dest, I believe, had a minor injury after their last friendly, so I'm curious to see, was that just minor and is he back in there? Yeah, I forget what it was.
Gold Cup with an injury.
Yeah, well, I think the Gold Cup was like them saying we don't think you're all the way back yet, right? And they sent him to like go work on just like a personal training plan. This was actually like it wasn't an issue with his knee, I don't think. I think it was like some other type of leg injury that it seemed to be pretty minor. They're not going to take a lot of chances in a preseason game, but yeah, just curious to see those two. I mean, are both recovering from injuries the previous season, and I just really want and hope that they can get their minutes up and look good as we get to the start, of the actual season. So yeah, there you go. Let's call it a show there. Kyle, I will make sure and put links in the show notes to your X account, which is at the Bonfire, and also to your work at the Sporting News. As always, thanks so much for joining the show today.
Thank you, Frank. We're looking forward to the season. This is a nice little lull after a busy summer for sure, but we're going to be right back at it before we know. And as we said, that upcoming international window is going to be very, very, very intriguing for a number of reasons. So I'm excited to get there.
Yeah. We're going to be right back in it before we know it. I mean, I think the championship kicks off in like early August, first or second week of August. So next thing you know, we're going to be back in the full swing of it. Nice to enjoy a break here. Thanks to everyone for listening to Here and Abroad. If you enjoyed the episode, please do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, or the follow button if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or somewhere else. Thank you so much. I'm Frank Garza. You can follow me on X at FrankGarza007, and I'll be back next week with a new episode.